A 700-year-old artifact was discovered in Egypt, which revealed some astonishing facts about its past. Ancient civilizations belonging to Egypt left behind several unsolved mysteries that are still baffling scientists even today. There have been countless numbers of incidents where the researchers have found some incredible pieces from the past, but this time it was something else entirely that changed everything about the past we knew of. Egypt is one of the most mysterious places in the world that has been astonishing researchers for a very long time and continues to do so. Let's see what this team of researchers discovered in the mystical land of Egypt that made news all over the world. Just wait and you'll see why we're even talking about it, because this was something that's never been discovered before. The Egyptians have left behind numerous treasures, but it was this one discovery that changed everything about the world we thought we knew about. This discovery was an eye-opener for many scholars who have been studying Egyptology for so many years. Everything was new, which opened so many doors of so many rooms that were only filled with so many questions. But as the investigation proceeded, they were able to answer not all, but a few of them. What was the discovery? You'll find out soon. This little story is about a discovery that was found in an early 20th century excavation taking place in Antinoopolis that left everyone in awe. We all have read stories about the wonderful place Egypt, and there have been times where we've come across stories about other findings that are very common in a place like this. Then what's so special about this discovery? This particular artifact happened to be 1700 years old, and something like this hasn't been found ever. This discovery was special in every sense, and you'll be amazed to see what it was. In the past, this ancient civilization started at around 3100 BC. From then, it lasted until 646 BC. The Egyptians laid a very good foundation of their culture and civilization. With the proper use of their resources, the civilization grew up steadily, and with time, their lifestyles improved. They were smart people and knew how to use the available resources for their benefit. The Egyptians began flourishing beside the areas of the Nile River, which flooded the area, giving the civilization an advantage to irrigate crops and funnel the flooded waters, which helped them in increasing the quality and quantity of crop yields, eventually helping them to survive in that area. And with time, the civilization was able to grow at a larger pace, resulting in building a storied culture of their own. But what was discovered changed everything we knew about the civilization. Egyptians also were advanced when it came to the cloths they used to wear. However, one thing remained the same. Just like for the productivity of their crops, they used available materials and resources that were found in the area. Some of the tribes within the Egyptians wore animal skin, whereas others wore linen. The Egyptians also grew flax, which was used to create fibers. With flax fibers, they made fiber threads, which they later used to weave and create cloth for their own use. Men and women created their own clothes that were distinctive in their own way. The civilization was growing at a very fast pace, and it was then things started to change for the Egyptian people. Many things were left behind, and this discovery was one of them. The ancient Egyptians had a very unique style of wearing clothes. Men donned skirts which they wrapped around their waist and used belts to hold them as we do hold our pants or jeans. Over time, there were many changes they did to the skirts, like lengthening them, shortening them, and even adding pleats. Rich men even gave it more knack. They layered it with jewelry, headdresses, and fabric-based additions over them. Similarly, women's wardrobes were not that flashy either. They wore long dresses, adding extra beauty to the dress with one or a pair of straps. Eventually, their dresses too became more creative. Draping or pleating fabric were added to make it look like ornate garments. And just like men from a wealthy family, women have also spiced up their dresses with jewelry and other accessories. Back in the day, the Egyptians considered jewelry as a sign of status. Only wealthy families were able to afford the ornaments made from precious metals. The jewelry wasn't only used to impress their neighbors, but they'd also devote it to the gods to impress them by offering bracelets, necklaces, earrings, collars, pendants, and rings. Not only did the Egyptians dress well or wore expensive jewelry, they even mixed their own makeup. Both men and women strengthened their eyes with black coal liner. They used powdered minerals to decorate the eyelids with green and blue tints. For transforming their hands and lips, they relied on henna. But who would have thought that in the future there'd be this amazing discovery that would surprise the whole world? The man who was responsible for this amazing find would be Monins Johnson. The main focus of his study was in papyrology, meaning the study of Egyptian writing. He was involved in every part of the study from literature to legal dealings. His career bloomed when he was in Antinoopolis. Excavating the site looking for something else, he found something unexpected that changed his life forever. In the year 1913 and 1914, John de Monins Johnson was excavating the city of Antinoopolis. Greek Emperor Hadrian founded the city to remember his friend Antonius, who died after drowning in the Nile River. Johnson's main focus was to dig up the site and find any hidden papyrus in the area. But then things didn't remain the same. Papyrologist's excavation was going brilliantly. De Monins Johnson excavation was giving him the exact thing he was looking for. His investigation helped him publish a 3-volume book called Antinoopolis Papyri. That book was released in the 1950s and 60s, but his dig turned out to be something else when he was able to discover amazing artifacts on top of the papyri. Excavating a site isn't an easy task to do. There's a lot of work going into it, and Johnson knew what he was doing would surely change his life and the past for everybody else. He decided to stay a little longer on the site because the first evidence he found made him a little confident about the area. He kept the investigation on. He was stunned to find so many things during the excavation, but it was this one thing that stole the show. Along with the papyri, Johnson was lucky enough to find textiles, coins, shoes, and even wooded clapper. He thought it was all he would find, but then he was taken aback with the discovery that was found after all these other items. Who could have thought that this excavation would take an amazing turn, and between everything he'd be able to find, the most amazing thing in the world? What's that? Well, you'll find out soon. Johnson was able to find a lot of things, but it was an ancient sock that made him want to know more about it. The thing is that there's been no evidence before about the fact that Egyptians wore socks in the past until now. But in 2018, there was new information that researchers were able to find out about the sock discovered by Johnson. We now know that Egyptians loved accessories and makeup, but the scholars believed that the people were barefoot. This discovery, though, changed that theory for good. Researchers were able to find that they did use sandals when they had an important event to cover, and what's amazing was they wore socks too. The discovered sock eventually landed at the British Museum in London, where it was kept under the category of Antinoopolis collection. In the year 2018, the team of researchers who were trying their best to figure out the sock and its age found out that someone in the past wove the wool sock around 300 AD, making it amazingly 1700 years old. But there was something else the researchers found out later. Today, we have some amazing technologies that help the scientists to gather detailed new information about the sock. They used mass spectrometry imaging, where they used an electromagnetic spectrum collecting data after reading different wavelengths that aren't visible to the human eye. So what did they find? Using mass spectrometry, the team was able to find the type of dye that was used to color the multi-hued sock. The ancient Egyptian used all natural plant-based dyes to color the clothes they wore back then. For example, to create red pigments on clothes, they used madder root, and the same madder is still used today for the same purpose. Ancient Egyptians were also able to discover the woad plant, which helped them to dye fabrics blue. Though today the woad isn't being used because of the synthetic alternatives. They also used weld plants to make yellow pigment. The same practice was used by the Romans, which they often used in their sun-colored wedding clothes with weld installed in it. Not only did the mass spectrometry tell the British Museum's scientists about the colors they used to dye the clothes, but they were also able to understand how the Egyptians dipped fibers into the dye to form different types of colors. The Egyptian weaving techniques were really amazing, where they were able to create a rainbow effect on their clothes. And surprisingly, the team was able to get all this information without damaging the ancient sock. Some years back, the researchers used the radiocarbon dating technology where they had to cut the cloth to read about this detail. But mass spectrometry did everything without damaging it. Scientist Dr. Joanne Dyer was the one who came up with this brilliant idea while she was working in the British Museum's Department of Scientific Research. In her interview with The Garden, she said, "It was exciting to find the different colored stripes found on the child's sock were creating using a combination of just 3 natural dyes." Dyer and her entire team told about their research in a journal called PLOS ONE. In the journal, they told about the garment's unique shading and weaving techniques. The Egyptian used their natural dyeing techniques to create pigments of red, yellow, and blue, creating the primary colors and creating orange, purple, and green socks alongside it. The British Museum also spoke about the sock's purpose. This sock was for the left foot of a child with separation between the big toe and 4 others. The study revealed the sock was prepared to be used when the person was wearing a sandal. The Egyptians were able to create such a beautiful sock because of their unique style of knitting, a single needle looping technique sometimes called knole binding, explained the British Museum team. This method allowed the Egyptians to sew each toe separately, thus giving them enough space to fit inside the sandal. Although the knitter who created the sock made all the toes separately out of dark green yarn, the knitter then joined and worked in bands of orange 4 rows, purple 4 rows, bluish green 4 rows, dark red 6 rows, and green 6 rows, said one of the scientists. Even the heel of the socks had multicolored patterns, which were made of shades of dark blue and yellow. The research didn't just tell us about the garment, but according to Dr. Dyer's imaging technique, made sure that no harm was done to his precious discovery, which was also a lot less cheap and intensive than the techniques they used before. Before, you'd have to take a small piece of material from different areas, she told The Guardian. And this sock is from 300 AD. It's tiny, fragile, and you'd have to physically destroy part of this object. Whereas with both mass spectrometry imaging and other techniques, you have a very good preliminary indication of what these could be, Dr. Dyer added further. Truly, this unique discovery has shown the Egyptians in a new light. They were able to use techniques which we thought were invented much later.